You don't have to be quiet yet, just sit down. Good morning, everyone. No. Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Thank you. If I'm up at 4:30 in the morning, you guys are going to be up too. Okay. Thank you all for coming. We have a very, very, very full program this morning, and what I think is going to be fun, educational, and a good experience for all. Let me just introduce our sponsors who sponsor these breakfasts so I don't get screamed at. Ulster Savings, Sally Ackerman. Steve Ackerman is here if you need patent work. That's the guy to see. Rondout Savings, Sawyer Savings, Mid-Hudson Federal Credit Union, Ulster Community College, and hold on. The Heart of the Catskills Catering. They provide breakfast. See, I didn't forget. It was close. Our agenda this morning is, first, we have a Skype cast this morning from Andreas Stefanidis in Greece, who is going to bring us up to speed on some happenings in Greece. As you know, it's in the news every day. And Andreas is working with young entrepreneurs throughout Europe, bringing new technologies to market, and we are working cooperatively to assist them, and they will be assisting us as well. So new technologies that are developed here will have the ability to be commercialized throughout Europe using Andreas's group as a foundation. And Andreas is going to be introducing us to one of his new companies as well today. Then our guest speaker is Sven Ohm. Sven, where are you? There you are, sitting in the front row. No wonder I couldn't find you. Sven is president of the European American Business Association and is going to give us some updates on exporting to Europe for our technology companies. That's a critical environment right now. And then we're going to do a short discussion on the Valley of Death. And for the woman, if she is here, who emailed me, does that mean sleeping next to my husband is a bad thing? That's your problem. Okay, so without further ado, we want to get started because we're going to run short of time, and we want to bring up Andreas from Athens. I have to go back here, or else you're not going to be able to see him. Good morning, Andreas. How are you? Can we turn up the volume on this at all? Turn up your volume, Andreas. Try harder. Whoa, is that better?
Yes.
Yes? Well, it's better on this end, but okay. So how's everything in beautiful Greece this morning?
From weather point of view or from economic point of view?
Oh, the heck with the weather. You already got your tan. From the political point of view.
Political point of view, we have a new government the last 6 months. We have a little turmoil with the crisis. We're in the middle of the crisis. And but we're positive. I think that entrepreneurship and young people is the future for the recovery from the economic crisis.
Has the economic crisis affected some of the young entrepreneurs?
We have severe problems because the liquidity of the market is very bad. We have a big debts from the public sector point of view, so the big projects have been stopped because they used to be financed from the government sector. So, and as you understand, it's a circle in the economy. If the public sector cannot pay for the big projects, so that we cannot have, work and projects for the small and the young entrepreneurs as well. Now, the big benefit, as you know me now several years, is that young entrepreneurs now they start thinking European and also globally. That's why we supported with a network of young entrepreneurs in Europe, and we work on that since 2002. And now the last 2 years, as a host partner of the Global Entrepreneurs Week, we support the extroversion of young entrepreneurs of Greece in all around the globe.
Now, you were recently at a conference in Dubai, and what were the results of that conference?
Okay, the results of the conference is, speaking also with the president of the Kaufman Foundation and the rest of the countries, is that we have a very big increase on the unemployment of youth globally. But small countries like Greece, this problem is even higher. Just to give you a statistical number, in Greece we expect at the end of the year to have approximately 30% unemployment of youth. That means young people from 17, 18 to 28 years old. So as you understand, that's a big problem for the country.
Now, many of your young entrepreneurs are from family-owned businesses. Are those family-owned businesses able to continue the way they have been accustomed to, or are the young people changing careers?
No. We have both. Some of them, they try to make the family business to survive, and to be honest, as association, we support them fully, because you know how difficult it is to build a business from scratch. So family businesses that they have good foundations must survive, number one. However, there are many of them that they do not have a family business, they have a very good idea, and they need fast networking to make revenues. So simple. So many of these ideas cannot survive at national level, so they can go directly at European and global level.
Now, as you know, here at the Hudson Valley Center for Innovation, we have been focusing primarily on new alternative energy solutions and information technology. Are these industries as predominant in Greece and Europe as they are here right now? Are those the growth industries?
The first one, not yet, but it's coming, because the new government has a first priority to green economy and green entrepreneurship. However, the ICT sector is very dominant for young entrepreneurs in Greece and in Europe as well. One of the startup companies that I have next to me that will make a short presentation to you, it is from the ICT sector.
And who are they and what do they do?
They do a special software for insurance companies.
For residential or commercial?
I'm not a technical expert on that. Just, to create the link between us.
Very good. Unemployment at 30% of young people. Is Greece losing a lot of young people? Are they moving away, or are they staying home and trying to stick it out?
Not any more or less. I can say that in comparison with 40, 60 years ago that I listened from my parents and other relatives, we don't have that trend anymore. People, they understand that they have to fight in the country at national and regional level, because internet gives the opportunity to create their vision from their own hometown or home city. So it's not anymore necessary, to travel and to immigrate to another country as it used to be, some decades ago. So this is, I think, a big opportunity also for the national economy.
And imports into Greece from both the EU and from America, is that becoming more predominant as to expand and create a base for new technologies?
This is the problem, especially in Greece. We are an import economy. We have many imports on many different products or services, especially products. The commercial sector is already dominated from big multinational corporations that they create big malls or other commercial industries, and there is no room for young entrepreneurs. So the emphasis now for young people that they start something on their own is to be on services, ICT, and green entrepreneurship, green economy.
Excellent. Well, it's a very similar focus to here. Did you bring a company with you today that you want to introduce?
Yes, of course. I have close to me Giorgos Kripotos, okay? He's the director. Please, George.
Greetings from me.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Why don't you tell us who you are and a little about yourself and your company?
Yes, my name is George Kripotos, like Andrea said. I'm 28 years old. My company is called Insurance Manager, and what we do is to develop one software that is directed to the insurance agents. Let me talk about the insurance market a little bit to make it more clear. We have the insurance companies from one side and we have the customers on the other side. So the insurance companies try to find customers, so there are the insurance agents and brokers in the middle that their work is to find clients for the company, so they get their commission. As you understand, this task needs to be managed and needs to be managed electronically, so our software provides electronic management of their portfolio for insurance agencies. So this whole idea started in 2003. It was one business unit of one company called Virtual Trip, and later it became one spin-out of this company. In 2005 we had our first beta version, and 2006 we had our first release. To date we have one client base of 150 installations. And now what we try to do is to change some of our main ideas of our software, to make it more elegant, to change technology, go on the web, and because we have seen that the international model in insurance market is very similar to the Greek one, so we try to transform our software so that we can go in the markets of other countries.
Have you been able to interact with any major insurance companies?
I'm sorry, can you repeat, please?
Have you been able to engage with any major insurance companies in Greece or Europe?
Actually, it's not the insurance companies, but the agents that we are interested in. So in Greece, yes, we have some strategic operations here, and in order to develop ourselves, to develop our business internationally, we have a network of partners already for, let me explain some things. We are a spin-out of one company called Virtual Trip, and this spin-out has 4 other companies. So these companies are already international, so we will use their network of partners to expand to the other countries.
Is there an opportunity for your software and for your company to expand to the United States? Do you have any wishes to do that?
We have some unofficial contacts with the state of Ohio, and yes, they have a big interest in that. But we will further investigate that.
Well, we'll let Andreas be your agent.
Yes, certainly.
Any questions from the audience? Yes, sir. Hold on.
I represent a company in Connecticut that has a web-based product that does almost the same thing that your product does. It brings together the broker and customers as well as insurance companies and banks to interrelate, and they do a web newsletter or an email newsletter that goes out all the time. The name of the company is insworld.com. I think you can access their website, and they're in Avon, Connecticut. So if you have any interest in pursuing that, but let me say that this is a very difficult market. They were doing fairly well before the recession, but as a consequence of the recession, I think they've suffered significantly. And although they had great prospects, the whole market's changed a great deal. Hopefully it'll come back. We don't know, but we'll see. But I pass that information on to you if you want to make a contact there. The guy's name is Ed Rameke.
Well, we can pass that on together. I can pass that information along to Andreas, and we can see if there's a connection there.
Sure.
That's what this is all about. Any other questions from our people? No? Okay. Thank you very much. It was a pleasure meeting you.
Thank you very much. I pass it back to Andreas. Thank you again.
Thank you. Well, that was very interesting. So maybe we can make a connection here.
Let's say we don't have experience. It's actually the first time. So it's good if we repeat that once a month.
Very good. Well, we're going to thank you for joining us this morning. We'll look forward to another company next month and for an update on what's going on in Greece and in Europe.
Thank you very much for this opportunity.
Thanks, Andreas. Take care. Regards.
Hello to the audience and my good morning from Greece.
Oh, and next month my audience said that they're going to do all the questions in Greek.
Okay. Have a nice day to all of you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
All right, hold on. I got to race around here. All right, we're going to just hook this up. All right, now we're moving on. This is how I stay so slim and svelte. No signal. This is good. Cool. Okay. Charging into the valley of death. Let me see if this thing works and I'll be all set. Hold on. Don't panic. How about that? Technology is a wonderful thing. Without hesitation, I can say that every company we interview is primarily interested in raising capital. But we always ask the questions, are you ready to raise capital? Would you know what to do with the money even if it were provided to you? Or is your management team and your technology far enough along to inspire investment? Or are you in fact a technology looking to become a business as opposed to a business looking to expand into new technologies? These are serious questions. It's kind of the new paradigm. If you were to turn yourselves around and view yourselves as investors, would you invest in you, considering the risk, considering the technologies, considering all that's at stake? Very serious questions for an entrepreneur. All right, we're going to move on. How many of you have ever seen this chart before? Nobody? Nobody has gone through the valley of death. The dip right here, that is the debt. That is the negative balance sheet that companies experience as they invest money now in hopes of making it back upon the success. So you can see here, when a company begins, we've got some funding from those friends, families, and fools, and I know friends, family, and those other folks. And I know there are some people here in the audience who have gone through this. So now you've got sort of a positive cash flow, and you're feeling all happy, but you get along down this path, and the cash starts to dwindle. And nowhere in this valley of death more evident than in clean technology. And that's, as you know, one of our focuses here. Startups face the most difficult of challenges. On one hand, there's the challenge of teams seeking anywhere from $50,000 to $5 million or more in funding to begin to translate their science into an industrial process. And on the other hand, there's the challenge of funded startups. And there are some, they're few and far between, trying to raise investments for the industrial-sized plants and equipment needed to utilize those processes. If we want to bring these emerging ventures to market quickly and at a scale that impacts our energy security and climate change, policy works and private investors alike are arguing we must provide the financial support, these entrepreneurs need to make it through this ominous valley of death. Now, statistically, a lot of companies don't make it through this valley of death. And I don't want to scare anybody away, but it's a real issue and getting more real, and we can touch on some developments in a little while. Watch this technology just work. There you go. Who's laughing at me? Ron. The moment when the heart stops pumping or the lungs stop breathing, indeed, doctors now take great care in noting not just the immediate cause of death, but although the antecedent causes. The patient died of whatever, due to whatever. So antecedent causes are also related into the valley of death structure. It's never the problem that it was the management or it was a bad piece of technology to start with. It was always something else and something else and something else. What we try and do is actually initially get to the root of where the issues may be or may be lurking. I'm making a mess of this. Okay. Watch this. Okay. This is going to be up here for a little bit. We've often discussed the potential sources of capital that are available to most entrepreneurs and most sought after by entrepreneurs. Friends, family who won't be your friends or family if you don't make them money. That's a given. And in some cases, they want to be made rich, and they want to be made rich quick. I used to have a publicly held company, and I had a stockholder. We were a 25-cent stock. So this man owned 10 shares. That's $2.50 for the mathematically challenged amongst us. He would call me every single morning at 8 o'clock. How's the stock doing? So when I told him we took an uptick, that uptick might have been a penny, which meant his return on investment was so infinitesimally small, the phone call cost 9,000 times more than he ever made on his stock. All right, let's talk about angel capital. Angel capital, money from private, well-to-do individuals. Everybody wants angel capital. The payback time for angels used to be about 5 to 7 years, and they would expect about a 25% return on their investment. Now, however, the most recent statistics show that angels want their money back in 2 to 3 years with a 35% or greater return on that investment. In the past, the criteria for a qualified angel investor was that they had to have a minimum of $1 million in net worth or an annual income of $200,000. Our administration is considering changing those rules. The new qualifications are a minimum of $2.2 million in assets, excluding real estate, and annual income of $450,000. This, according to the analysis from data from 2007, would eliminate approximately 2/3 of qualified angel investors in this country. That, my friends, is a big hit. Please, Ken, go ahead.
First of all, I think the return on investment is an annual, not a 5 years.
So the return on investment is annual, yes.
Otherwise, it's too small.
Right.
Secondarily, you're referring to exception under the Securities Act.
That's correct. I should come over there.
Defines an accredited investor. When you're an accredited, when you have accredited investors, you have a different set of standards in terms of disclosure and protection. But that doesn't mean if you have someone that falls below that standard that you can't take his money, but you have to give him more disclosure, and you're restricted in terms of the numbers.
Correct. See, it's good to have an SEC guy here in the audience. This works. But in my opinion, and I don't get political with these things, this legislation's a bad idea. And I would suggest whatever we can do to mitigate some of these bad ideas is not going to work to the advantage of our companies nor investors. Angel-backed companies are some of the most prolific companies in this country. There have been so many that have been started by angel capital. Google, Microsoft early on, and a host of others. Let's move along. What kinds of capital are there? Well, there's physical capital. There's intellectual capital. And these are some of the points that I'm going to go through this just so I can get it all up so I don't have to futz with this anymore. That's a technical term. In addition to financial capital, there are three other forms that are different, that at different times can be significantly more valuable. Physical capital means the physical resources that a company has already acquired. Intellectual capital is the knowledge and skills of a company. And social capital means you're tapping into someone's contact or social network. While a startup's balance sheet might clearly show where they stand with respect to their financial and physical capital, it does little to reveal their intellectual and social capital. And yet, for companies to avoid their own untimely demise, they depend as much or more on knowledge and experience and the ability to manage their company's fortunes, and on their social networks to discover, guide, and acquire the critical resources they'll need to succeed. Supporting the success of small companies advancing clean technologies requires more than financial or physical capital. It requires ensuring that these companies have access to the best knowledge and experience, the right social networks as they get started. Yeah, we're going to charge the light brigade. Just hold on. The competitive landscape in which new companies hope to thrive is a product of regulatory policies and industrial coordination that transpires in places in ways that are difficult for entrepreneurs to always see. This is a large portion of the knowledge and networks that new companies must acquire if they're going to survive and make a difference. Indeed, the valley of death may be an apt description for other less valiant reasons. The term came from Lord Alfred Tennyson's famous poem, yeah, guess what? The Charge of the Light Brigade, describing the tragic British cavalry charge over open terrain in the Battle of Balaclava in the Crimean War. I was there for that, in which 278 of 607 soldiers were killed or wounded within moments. Guess what's coming next? Oh, I did it again. Hold on. Ta-da! All right, how many of you in high school read Tennyson? Anybody? Oh, good. Harv, you want to repeat the charge? You couldn't do it, okay. At 11 o'clock, our light cavalry brigade rushed to the front. The Russians opened on them with guns from the redoubts on the right, with volleys of musketry and rifles. They swept proudly past, glittering in the morning sun in all the pride and splendor of war. We could hardly believe the evidence of our senses. Surely that handful of men were not going to charge an army in position. Alas, it was but too true. Their desperate valor knew no bounds, and far indeed it was removed from its so-called better part, discretion. They advanced in two lines, quickening the pace as they closed towards the enemy. A more fearful spectacle was never witnessed by those who, without the power to aid, beheld their heroic countrymen rushing to the arms of sudden death. My favorite part. But what caused the charge of the Light Brigade? Well, it was poor intelligence. It was miscommunication, unthinking obedience on the part of their commanders. That was the antecedent cause of the charge of the Light Brigade into the Valley of Death. Companies run out of money for all sorts of reasons, including perfectly good ones. The market wasn't ready, the technology couldn't scale, or the economy just tanked. But some of those reasons might have been avoided. The public financing of new ventures can prolong a company's life, but it won't fix poor planning, miscommunication, or blind faith. Money hides more bad decisions than it cures. To ensure companies make the transition from small ventures to a substantial business, financial capital may be the last form of capital startups need. Planning for the worst. There you go. We got thyself in there. Okay. Well, that's this morning's little talk about the charge of the Light Brigade. I hope you all enjoyed that. You should all go home and read that, actually. It's really pretty interesting and it's very relevant for our time. Now I am going to introduce our guest speaker for the morning, and it's not me. Sven Ohm is the president and CEO of the European American Business Organization, Inc. He gave me this whole thing to read. Okay? Until the end of 1998, he served as managing director of the European American Chamber of Commerce in the United States, and also as the vice president of the German American Chamber of Commerce, with special responsibilities for the Chamber's legal department. Before joining the EACC in '91, Sven worked in executive positions for subsidiaries of Gruner and Jahr, the magazine and newspaper publishing division of the German media company Bertelsmann. He studied law and economics at the University of Hamburg, Germany, and is admitted to the bar in Hamburg. Sven holds a Master's of Law degree in international business and trade law with a focus on European law from Fordham University. Sven is a frequent speaker, and we'll see how well he does, at trade and professional groups as well as the universities and colleges, where he addresses developments in the European Union and the U.S., commercial and trade relations. Specifically, his area of expertise include European economy and monetary union and enlargement of the EU. Sven is founder and president of the American Business Forum on Europe. For almost 20 years, he produced and anchored a weekly news show on public access TV in Westchester County, and was president of the board of directors of Larchmont Mamaroneck Community Television. Sven is president of the German American Law Association, a director of the Foreign Law Association, a member of the advisory committee of the European Union Studies Center of the Graduate School and University Center of the City University of New York, and a member of the board of advisors of the Weizmann Center for International Business at Baruch College. That's a resume. He said I didn't have to read everything, but then he said, could you read it all? So without further ado, I'll get your PowerPoint queued up. Let me introduce my friend Sven Ohm. The bottom one, as soon as I cue it up.
Okay. Well, good morning, and I'm happy to see you all, especially as I'm not a morning person. So when I left New York City at 6 this morning, I was hoping that at least there was going to be an audience here, and there is. So I'm very happy about that. Now I was okay. I'll figure this out in a little bit. I was just wondering, as I was listening to the link that we had with Greece, and then about the Valley of Death. I was wondering, what's the good news? I mean, if we start the morning, because Greece, I mean, we heard 30% unemployment of young people coming up, and I guess that's true. And we can talk about, or I will talk about Europe a little bit later. There are obviously many differences between the countries. But I think we need to hear some good news, because otherwise what are you going to do? At least it's not raining today. But we just, when we go back to our offices, we want to be energized, I guess, so that we can go ahead and do what we have to do. So a couple of words about my company, and I guess when you're during the presentation, if you have quick questions, because we do have a good amount of time, you can just ask me, and if it's going to be too long, too elaborate, I'll say we'll do that later. But if it's questions so that you can follow the presentation, then I think it's always better if you can just ask it right away. So we're located in the Chrysler building, not at the top, but on the 37th floor. And we are a consulting business assisting, on the one hand, companies from Europe that are planning to do business here, and also helping American companies that want to export their products to Europe, or that are looking to make investments in Europe. And we cover pretty much everything. The idea is that as the owner of a company, or the guy who's running the operations of a company, you know your product, you know exactly what your product does, and for what it should be used. So we don't want to interfere with that, but where we can help is all the other issues that come up when you, let's say you want to export to Europe, you want to know, are there regulatory issues, what about customs, who do I talk to in Europe, wherever it is, where I guess the point of entry is, and so on and so forth. So with all of those issues, we can help, and we also have a taxation department, and they can look at the tax issues that come up. When you do business in Europe, or when you send people to Europe, immigration is not such a big issue. That's really something where we assist the companies that come from Europe to the United States, where they need visas and so on, and that's a bit more complicated and tricky for them. So this is supposed to work, or? Oh yeah, it does seem to work. So I mean, I'm not going to read every line on these slides, because then I could have really stayed in bed, I guess. But the point is, we really want to help the small and medium-sized businesses to export to Europe. And we later will get to a few examples that we've done. And it's, as I said, you know your product. You want to go to Europe, but you don't know very much. Yes, we can talk to someone in Greece, or maybe you once went to Europe, you met someone, or at a conference you met someone, but you obviously need additional information, and that is what we can provide. In the US, there is a large market, of course, 300 million people, 300 million customers, and that's big. And you should really take advantage of that. But you may also be looking at other markets, especially if you know that 95% of the population live outside of the United States. And there is obviously the big draw of the Asian markets, of China, and maybe India and some others. But then there is the European Union, which is relatively close in many ways to the United States. I mean, obviously there are differences, but the people in most countries, they've been exposed to marketing techniques coming from the United States, so they know how to respond. Many people have been traveling to the United States. If you look at the news currently, you see that all these people who are camped out at JFK or some of the other airports because they couldn't go back, and that's, I guess, starting now. But so there are lots of people coming to the United States from Europe every year, and when they're here, they're exposed to many of the goods that are here. So you don't have to really explain a lot to them when the products that you have go abroad. Another, when you talked about Europe at least, another interesting aspect is that the dollar has depreciated against the euro. So you're actually making more money now just when compared to 5 years ago, and I'll go to an example a little bit later. And if you watch the trade balance of the United States, you may have noticed that the numbers are going up. There are more exports. What most people don't know is that the United States is one of the largest exporters in the world. There's always this ongoing competition every year who's the champion, and it's between China, between Germany, between the United States and Japan. Those are the big exporters. The difference here in the US is that the US market itself is so big, so as far as the percentage of GDP is concerned that exports make up, that number is relatively low when you compare it to Germany. The German economy is much more dependent on exports than the US is. And another aspect is, of course, every time Boeing sells airplanes, that has an impact on the trade balance, as has the oil price and so on, but most of you, I guess, are familiar with that. So, if you remember the State of the Union of President Obama earlier this year on January 27th, he announced a national export initiative, and with the goal of doubling exports within 5 years. That's probably an aggressive goal, but depending on how successful this initiative is, and obviously depending on the economic conditions throughout the world, that can probably be more or less achieved. Here's some information about this National Export Initiative. I guess there was an executive order that he signed on March 11 where he implemented a number of aspects of this initiative. So there's going to be more federal assistance, financial assistance, also help through the offices of the U.S. Commercial Service. More trade missions are going to be organized, and so on and so forth. As this was only introduced on March 11, they're still in the process, I guess, of setting up all the details. But it is certainly a goal of the administration, and a prominent goal, to really increase exports and have companies export now that haven't exported until now. So that new people are joining the team, so to speak, to export U.S. goods to the world, and that will continue. These are some pieces of legislation that are still pending. I guess we don't have to look at those details. The idea is obviously to make it easier to assist companies also with the financing, with letters of credit, because obviously if you export to a country that you've never been to, where you don't speak the language, where you are only in contact with someone who maybe speaks some broken English or so, you may wonder, if I send my stuff over there, will I ever see any money? And that's important because in many of the other exporting champions that I mentioned before, there is backing from the government. So if German exports grew and Japanese exports grew because there was backing by those governments, they said, okay, if you will run into trouble, there is an insurance fund that we've set up, and that insurance fund will take care of any losses that you have. And that's something that hasn't really been on the agenda here, so that's going to be increased. The two main partners there are the Small Business Administrations and the Export-Import Bank, and they have a number of programs where they can help and will help small and medium-sized businesses export to the world. And for instance, the Export-Import Bank last year doubled the loan guarantees, and I guess they will again increase them this year. So it's just important, number one, that you're aware of it, and then number two, that when you want to export, that you take advantage of all these programs and the assistance that is available, so that you don't get caught somewhere out there in one of the countries where things may be difficult, where it's difficult to recover your goods or payment for your goods. So on this one, I guess what may surprise you is that 97% of U.S. exporting firms are small and medium-sized businesses already, even though the total number of goods that they export is relatively small. But it's happening, and more companies are joining this group. And at the same time, only 1% of the 27 million businesses in the U.S. sell overseas. So there's I guess, a lot of space to improve this. And then at the bottom is we finally come to my company, so to speak. And what we can do is we can help when it's about exporting to Europe, because we have the experience, we have the knowledge, we know who to contact in Europe, who to talk to, and we can then work with you to make sure that everything works well for you in Europe. This is kind of an overview. Many of you may be familiar with that. The European Union established a single market, which means that there's one customs tariff for all the countries, but once you enter a product into the European Union, it can travel freely within this area of the single market. And there are no more border controls. You don't have to worry about paying additional duties or whatever. Once the product is in, it can travel freely. And it's a market of nearly 500 billion people, so compared to the United States, it's certainly much larger. And the kind of the pillars of this European Union are the free movement of people, of goods, as I said, of services, and also of capital. So to that extent, it is a market that is comparable to the United States. However, and that's where the comparison then ends. If you look at Europe, you have different languages, and while especially the young people usually speak English, but it still may be an issue when you deal with people in some countries that they do not speak English or don't speak English well enough. Usually the Scandinavian countries have a very good knowledge of English. The countries like Netherlands, very good, Germany, very good, and also the new member states of the European Union, the ones that were part of the Soviet Union-dominated bloc when the Iron Curtain was still up. The young people in those countries now speak also very good English and have good command of the language. Another advantage of Europe is the single currency area, the Eurozone. There are 17 countries which are part of it right now, and Greece is one of it, and that we don't have to go into the Greek situation, but one of the issues right now is, of course, that Greece has the euro as a currency, which has many advantages if you do business there, because you don't have to worry about exchange rates within Europe. But at the same time, as Greece is close to bankruptcy, so the discussion over the last 2 months was who's going to help Greece. Are these other members of the European Currency Union going to provide the funds? And I guess they've agreed to do that now. Now, the fact that in 17 countries, and it's most of the big countries, with exception, I guess, the most outstanding exceptions are Great Britain and Sweden, you have the euro, which means that there are lower transaction costs between the countries, there's more price transparency, and there's increased competition within the countries. And here's a map, so you can see the member states of the European Union, and you can also see in the darker blue the countries that are members of the currency union. So as I said, all the big countries, with the exception of the United Kingdom, are part of the euro area: Germany, Italy, France, Spain, and that's certainly very beneficial. And perhaps over the next 3 or 4 years, some of the where's the pointer? Ah, okay. So some of the Eastern European countries may also join the currency union. And if sometimes it will last 2 or 3 months, there were reports in the newspapers that it may fall apart, and so on and so forth. That is extremely unlikely for many reasons. So the European Union as such is going to continue, and the currency union is also going to continue, because in the end there are just too many advantages that the countries have being part of the European Union or of the currency union. So kind of this sums it up again. It's the European Union is an integrated market. It's a market where there are many consumers who have enough money to spend, a high disposable income, especially in the larger countries of the European Union, and then also especially in the countries that are north of the Alps in Europe. The problematic countries at the moment are obviously Greece, Portugal, Spain, and to a much lesser extent Italy. But the market as such has a large number of, as I said before, 500 million people, so not everyone is yet on the same level, but the goal of the European Union is that you will have consumers that have more or less somewhat similar disposable income in the various countries, and that's certainly a great advantage if you want to do business there. I've mentioned before the exchange rate. That's the last bullet point here. When the euro was introduced, it was introduced at a rate of €1 equals $1.18. And then the euro lost in the first years. It lost in value, so it went up down to $0.8. And a few weeks ago, the exchange rate was that the dollar had a value of 1.4 compared to the euro. It's gone down a little bit, but the advantage is 5 years ago, when you sold something for €1 in Europe, you would get 80 cents. Now when you sell something for €1, you will get $1, and I think yesterday it was $1.34. So you get 34 cents that are additional income without doing anything, so to speak. So that's a certain advantage that's likely to continue. Many experts say the dollar is going to decline further, which would mean that sales in Europe will generate more funds. And obviously many Americans that are doing business in Europe are having good profits there because of the exchange rate. This is just to show you that if you export to Europe, you're not the only person. It's the United States-EU trade relations. While there are always frictions on some issues, like if you know about a chicken, and there's an issue about airplanes, who gets subsidies, what subsidies does Boeing get, what subsidies does Airbus get, and so on and so forth. But in principle, it is a very strong and the most important economic relationship in the world, and it works both ways, and that's important, that it's not kind of one-sided as it is with Japan and the US, where Japan sells products here, or China, where primarily products are sold here, and there are not as many exports from the US to those countries. You can see that Europe accounts for 50% of US global profits, and the EU merchandise imports from the US in 2008 were $260 billion. So that's a pretty significant trade number, and shows you that that there's a lot of activity going on. There are a lot of people over there who are obviously familiar with doing business with the United States and with companies in the United States. And in Europe, you also have the backbone of the European economy are also small businesses. So there are people who face similar challenges, and they understand when you contact them what the issues are that you are facing. So we just wanted to look at two countries to give you some idea of what's there. Here you see that Germany is the largest European economy. It's the fourth largest economy in the world. There are 88 million people living there in a I guess the area that's the size of Montana. Europe is much more crowded and has the advantage that you don't have great distances. It's easier to reach people. When companies come to us from Europe, they want to export to the United States, and we tell them, why don't you decide where in the US you want to export to, because the distances are so great, and because there is much more open space. People are living far away in many cases from the next mall or places where they can shop, and that's different in Europe. In Europe, people are much closer to shopping malls, to cities, and so, for instance, internet sales in Europe are not as prominent as they are in the United States, because there's no need. People can go to a store and look at things, and they prefer that. Another reason is that there is apprehension in Europe about using credit cards. The use of credit cards is not as dominant as it is here. People are afraid to give information on the internet because they think someone will steal their information, and then they will be disadvantaged. So there are different ways of selling in Europe, but again, it's a large market, and in some ways, it's you can sell to Europeans in a more traditional way. However, the internet is now also catching up. The younger people obviously think it's easier, it's beneficial. They can do business at any time when they want to buy something. So that's obviously good. And also, as I said before, Germans are very familiar with US products because they've been here, they see them. And today, people, when they see the products here, they say, okay, of course I can buy them in the US, but let's say in half a year, if I want to buy something, why can't I buy it in Europe? I want to buy it in Europe too. So years ago, people said, okay, it takes time, it takes maybe 2 years until the product actually makes it across the ocean and it's being sold in Europe. Today, it's much different. Maybe you've read that Apple said that the start of the iPad in Europe is going to be delayed by a month because too many people here in the US bought it. But it shows that it's really happening at the same time in Europe too. And so people see stuff here, they say, I want to also be able to buy it at home. And if you go to New York City, especially during periods where people are traveling, but I have the impression that in New York City there are always Europeans, so you can't even say anymore, well, they're coming for Easter holidays or for Christmas or whatever. If you go to Abercrombie on Fifth Avenue, at least at the peak travel times, there are lines outside, and they're primarily Italians who want to get in and buy stuff. Or at the Apple store, also on Fifth Avenue, and then there are a couple of more now, there are lines of Europeans who want to buy stuff there. So what I want to tell you is people in Europe are interested in American products. Maybe they don't agree with US policies on many times, but the products that are produced here, that's a different story. Those they're going to buy. So that's important. The one aspect when we look at Germany that you should keep in mind are the trade shows. Germany has many of the leading trade shows in the world, and that's a good place to show your product, or to just go and talk to people, find maybe distributors and so on. You really meet all the people from Europe at these major trade shows. And that's a bit different from the US, where there are also some trade shows, but in Europe, this is really where people get together, where they network, where they make arrangements and actually make deals. So when you go there, there is an opportunity to also make deals. Yeah. I mean, there are pretty much for everything there is a trade show, and it's usually the leading trade show in the world for many products.
How many square feet is Hanover?
That I don't know, but it's the largest, I guess. But there's Hanover, and it was actually happening now, I guess. And of course, this time they were hit by the problems with the closed airspace, so that people couldn't get there. But then there's another large trade show area in Leipzig. Frankfurt has a large trade show area. It's pretty much every 2 weeks there is another trade show in Frankfurt. So it's really a very important aspect of doing business there to go to these trade shows. Now another country that I wanted to point out is Poland. And obviously has been in the news lately, but Poland joined the EU about 10 years ago, and it's pro-American. It's people are very open to new products. It's a fast-growing economy. Poland doesn't have the problems that some of the other countries have. Certainly not the problems that you see in Greece, and it's an interesting place. Because it's also a fairly large country, 40 million people, which is a medium-sized country in Europe. And it also has good connections to some of the countries that are to the east of Poland. And because it's part of the European Union, you can travel freely within or from Germany to Poland, which is next door. The Polish border is about 40 miles from Berlin, so it's very, very close. When you and it's interesting, since Poland obviously became a member, and then they became a partner of an agreement that abolishes also the border checks. So there are no border controls anymore when you go from Germany to Poland, and that's pretty much the case in all of Europe. But now, when you fly on Continental or Delta into Berlin, half the people on the plane are from Poland, because it's so easy for them to go to Berlin and then take a plane to the US instead of going to Warsaw, which is for many people in Poland further away because it's further to the east. What's interesting about Poland, and maybe an opportunity for some companies, that in 2012 Poland will host the European Soccer Championship, and that's big in Europe, so it's, as we say there, the #1 sports event, and that can create quite a number of opportunities for US companies that sell products that can somewhat be associated with this European Soccer Championship. So that's like baseball and football combined here in the U.S. That's the kind of the impact that soccer has in Europe. So I guess if you decide that you want to export to Europe, and if you contact us, We can obviously look at a market analysis. We can look at your product. We can tell you who the competitors are in Europe, what you have to be aware of. We can look at the regulatory environment, if there are certain regulations that you have to see that your product or that your product may come under, and then if it does, we have to see that it qualifies under those regulations. Usually it's a fairly straightforward process, and we can then certainly help with that. One issue that comes up frequently is the CE marking policy that Europe has, and even on many packages that you buy here in the US of some computer or some other technical component, you may see that it has the CE marking, as it is called, on the package. And that's what's interesting about that is that it's not something that the European Union or some office there will eventually grant you, but it's something that where you can self-certify that your product qualifies under the European regulations. And there are many ways to do that, and we can assist. We can tell you whether you can do it yourself or whether you should perhaps talk to an agency or what the Europeans called a notified body. And a notified body is usually a technical institution that will see that, and they are also here in the US, so you don't have to do that work in Europe, but that they can then see how your product qualifies and give you the documentation. Because the one thing that you have to do, you have to have the documentation that you qualify for the CE marking in Europe. So if you have an importer, for instance, or if you have a subsidiary, that information has to be available in Europe in case a customer or some agency wants to check up on it. They will. You have to provide it there, and you can't say, "Well, we have it in our office in Fishkill." You really have to have it in Europe, wherever maybe the point of entry is, your importer is, or some other person that takes care of your affairs over there. We can also help with selecting the trade shows. We can prepare you for the trade shows, so we can then also look at who will be at the trade show and who should you talk to. That's fairly easy for us to do, and we can certainly assist you with that. So pretty much every aspect that might come up, we will be able to help you, and it's just something that you have to tell us what you want to do, and then we can design the program. And the idea is that we can act, if we do everything, we can really act as your outsourced export department. So that's usually cheaper than having to hire people and then maybe having to see whether they're the right people, whether they really know what they're talking about. And because we have a lot of experience, so for us it's usually fairly easy to take care of the issues and to make sure that you get the best possible solution for a very low price, so that you can save time, that you reduce your costs, and you can achieve profitability fast. I don't want to go through this in detail, but this is one example of a company from New England that produces fruit drink mixes, and they have one person who's supposed to take care of exports worldwide. And their idea is to expand now worldwide. It's a fairly small company, but this person called us 3 weeks or so before he was going to Europe, and he said, "Well, I have 2 or 3 contacts there, but I need to meet more people. I need to maybe go to a trade show or whatever." And so we put together a program where he was meeting with some people in 2 countries, and then he went to the trade show, and we set up the appointments for him. We prepared materials for him that he could take that addressed some of the cultural issues for his specific product, and he was very successful over there, and now we're assisting them with actually bringing the product over there. And though we're not usually dealing with Latin America, but now we're also helping him with the initial research for some Latin American countries, where they also want to sell their products. The point is that there is one person at this client, at this company, that is charged with exporting to the world, so to speak, but he obviously doesn't have the resources, and if he travels, he can't do the work at home at his office because he's in Latin America or he's in Europe or wherever. He's also dealing obviously with Canada and Mexico, so that's where we come in. We can really assist him and his company. And this was another example where we had. I have to walk. Now I don't fall, but it feels like you're falling when you step off the carpet. But this was another interesting example because it was a company that wanted to export a meat patty to Europe, but everything was going to be produced here and then shipped to Europe and sold there. So we had to look at food is always very critical. I mean, whether it's here in the U.S., you have to make sure that you have the right sources where the food comes from, that there is no issue as far as the U.S. government is concerned, and in Europe there are other issues, but it's also they're always concerned about the food supply. So there are actually people here, agents of the European Union that inspect factories that produce food, and so we organized on relatively short notice visits by these inspectors to the factories here, and they did that, and they said this is good, it was approved, and in a relatively short time they were able to export. So that's another example, and obviously you produce or have lots of other products, and the point is that we have the knowledge, the expertise to help you in bringing them to Europe. We'll talk to you, and then we will make a proposal what we think you should do, how it should be done, and we'll tell you how much it's going to cost. And in the end, I think for a small and medium-sized company, where you obviously have to be aware of the risks, because as you said earlier, the funding is limited that you have. You don't want to run high risk. I mean, China is fascinating, but what happens if something goes wrong? Can you sue someone? Probably not. Or I think you said there's someone here who does patents. So if in Europe there's obviously an existing patent law, and if there is a violation, you have rights and you can protect it. If you go to China, there's always the issue during the day. If you produce during the day, the factory works for you, and at night it works for the Chinese. So whether that's true or not, but I mean that's obviously that has happened. And when you come from the U.S. or from Europe and you say, well, everything has to be regulated, there has to be a legal environment that will help me when there is an issue. That may not necessarily be the case in other countries outside of the U.S. and obviously Canada and like that, what we usually call the Western world, and that's an additional risk, and you have to be aware of that. So for a smaller, medium-sized company, it's probably always better to do business with countries, in countries where the environment is more controlled. Well, I think I'll wrap it up here, and if you have any questions, I'll be happy to answer them.
I'll spend some time. Anybody have any questions? Thank you. I'll mess this up on my own. Great. Arthur, you got... The question is, how many languages do they translate their literature into?
Well, right now I have people who speak French national, Spanish, obviously, but that's not so difficult anymore. Italian, Bulgarian, Russian, Finnish. I think that's German, obviously. Yeah. But as I said, it's there are two aspects. I mean, one is there are many people in Europe who speak fairly good English, and especially north of the Alps, if you kind of use that as the dividing line. And your friend in Greece actually is a very positive example also of young people who speak English.
He's not as young as he looks, though.
Well, but relatively speaking. The other thing is, you still have to be aware of the cultural differences in Europe. So while it is a single market, as I said, but obviously the German breakfast is different from the French breakfast or the Italian breakfast, for instance, and whatever it is. So you have to look at what do I want to sell and see what is the culture in that area or in that country, because it can even be different within a country.
Great. Sven is going to hang around for a while after the breakfast to answer any questions, and if anybody would like to get in contact with Sven, you can call me and we'll pass it along, or call Sven directly. And it was a pleasure having you here this morning. Thank you. All right, before everybody scoots, we have two additional pieces of business this morning. And first piece of business, I'd like to call my friend Jeremy Ellenbogen. As you know, we started broadcasting from this facility several months ago, and very honestly, it has been a wonderful experience for us. And this facility has provided us with a quasi-home, the broadcast facilities and webcasting for these breakfasts, and it has been a phenomenal experience. And Jeremy and I have been working closely together to try and expand that relationship. So,
thank you, Les. Thanks a lot. Thanks for everybody to come here. I really appreciate it. Some faces I see that I've seen before, some I haven't. So welcome, everybody. Les and I have been working on a strategic alliance through the Hudson Valley Center for Innovation. The Centers for Innovation, actually, there's quite a few of them around. At this point, there isn't one in Ulster County, or there hasn't been really until now. And what we're doing, we're forming a strategic alliance where, we kind of share clients, share ideas and services together, and help each other out. The media center here is made up of about 15 or so different media companies. I know you see the studios that are here, and you come to the breakfast, but you probably don't know the other things that go on here, and there are quite a few, behind the walls here on Broadway. We do have 2 studios. We have, there's a complete art gallery upstairs. There are several different media companies here in the facility in pretty much every area of the digital media industry, from film and video production, website development. We have intellectual property attorney who's here, software development, script writing. I mean, basically anything you could think of in the field is right here. And it's a really fast-growing industry. I know tourism is big here, but there's a lot of things that are happening in digital media that are really notable, and it's a whole economy that's being developed here. Things like iPhone and game development, application development. We have website service companies that are here in the building, and our endeavor is to support that and to really build this as a destination for people from New York City and from the people that are here. We do a lot of different work for various companies like National Geographic Channel, PBS, History Channel, plus even public access is here in the facility. So, from pretty much any level you can imagine. Another thing that we do is we provide a lot of digital media services for early stage and late stage development companies, entrepreneurs, which is kind of where Les comes in at this point, talking about, there's a lot of companies out there that have nothing. I see you're here from Tech City. We've been working with Tech City for about a year now and developing everything, and that's kind of an example. I'm not saying an early stage company, but they contracted us to basically work on all their digital media, including their website, all new logo, signage, video, anything that's digital media related. We're able to handle everything for them here, all in one facility. And it's not just one company working on it. We had 5 or so individual companies that were providing various services. So it was really quite a neat collaboration and a success story, I think. So a lot of times people work remotely, and that's fine too, and we work all here in the same facility. So we're really proud of that. A lot of things that we do too are helping small companies verbalize their product. That's always a big thing. You come up with a new product, and somebody says, "Hey, do it." Giving me an elevator pitch. Try to give me an idea of what this is in 1 minute, and that's sometimes a big problem. They can't. They have nothing. They don't even have a product yet. They have a prototype. And our job here is to bring it to life digitally, get it up on YouTube, get it into social media, get in a website built, maybe an animation that needs to be done to show what the product looks like. So little things like that are some of the things that we do here in this facility, plus audio and pretty much everything else. So that's a little bit of background of what we do. A lot of the companies that come to us also need consulting services, which Les can help provide us with. And his organization, things like an entrepreneur that needs to figure out certain business strategy or marketing strategy or doing a P&L analysis and stuff like that. It's not one thing that makes a business successful, it's everything together, and I think that's where the digital media side and the business consulting side is going to be a good recipe for success, we hope. So that's it. Yeah, it'll be very good. And we're giving Les Les will have a space here, an office space, so that he could conduct meetings and consult with companies that are here in Ulster County and beyond. So I want to thank everybody for coming, and also thank the City of Kingston and a lot of the municipalities for helping the Media Center be what it is today. This is working on our 4th year, so a lot of improvements underway, and we're still going. So thanks a lot.
As many of you know, we got our start here in Ulster County, and this is a pleasure for us to be here in Ulster County and have a place where we can operate from, do business from, help Ulster companies continue to grow and develop. And this is a valuable resource for not only Ulster County, but the entire Hudson Valley region. There's going to be some neat stuff that we're going to be coming out with to assist entrepreneurs, new companies, both inside and outside of our organizations. And it's going to be a wonderful alliance, and we're very proud to be part of it and to have Jeremy as a partner of ours. Our last piece of business this morning, last month we announced Vertex Wind as an affiliate. And they are here this morning, and we're happy to tell you that we did conclude our arrangements with them, and Vertex is indeed on board, and they will be located in this building. They're going to be one of the first Ulster companies to take residence here, which is going to be a wonderful thing for this community, keeping an Ulster County company here in Ulster County. We have a new company that we'd like to present to you this morning. I'd like to introduce Ron Bright, who is the president, CEO, chief guru of a company called H2OH. This is a new technology. This is a microwave boiler technology, which will hopefully reduce our dependence on fossil fuels for both residential and commercial applications. We are currently taking the company and helping to validate their technology, looking towards a very aggressive commercialization strategy. And Ron, come on up. Let me show your face. Show your face for the world.
Right.
You want to tell them a little about you, who you are and what you do?
Okay. Sure. My name is Ron Bright. I'm president of a company called H2O Inc., and we're here in Dutchess County in the city of Poughkeepsie, actually. And we're not necessarily an alternative energy company, but we are a green energy company. We are hoping to be 100% green with various efficiency data that you can look at. What I'm willing to do today is just kind of give an introduction to who we are, what we do. What we have is we put a lot of research and technology into developing a home heating system that will be the basis for what we're putting to the marketplace. And Les and his group is helping us get to that level. We're doing a testing and validation now with different universities, and we have some RFPs out with the right facility to get the technology to market. So I'm going to defer any questions to his group right now until that stage is set, when we're ready to, we don't want to be premature in our questioning, because I'm sure there's going to be a lot of questions with regards to efficiency ratings and all those kinds of questions, and those questions will be answered. But at this juncture, what I really have, if you're interested, is I have a publication brochure that I can email to anyone. Kind of gives you an idea of what the technology is, and it kind of like it starts out saying that we're introducing a revolutionary new home heating system that eliminates fuel oil costs and produces no atmospheric pollution. And it kind of gives you a visual of what the piece is. This is kind of like what it is, and it does have some efficiency rating components already established in the brochure, but obviously that's been changed because obviously with the environment and technology, it changes on a day-to-day basis, so things will be changing, but it kind of gives you an idea of what the unit looked like. It's actually a working prototype. I've been involved in the project for 10 years. It's not a fly-by-night operation. It's been in existence. We started the company in 2003, and now it's at a stage where we're almost there, ready to go to market. We researched the market to find the right technology company that could help us get there, and we found Les and his group, and we thought they were the company that could help us get to where we are. So if you're interested in knowing more about this, just see me. I'll be more than happy to email you this brochure in a PDF file, so you'll be able to get a little idea of what the company's like, and hopefully we can get this thing going pretty soon.
Thank you, Ron. Give him a hand. Come on. He traveled all the way here early this morning from beautiful Poughkeepsie. I'd like to introduce Howard and Al and Brian and Keith, members of the H2OH team, and as well some of our team members will be assisting them. And we think this is the basis of a marvelous technology that could be fairly disruptive and game-changing, and we're very happy to become involved with them. There will be opportunities for licensing, for manufacturing, for jobs, for job growth and economic development here in the Hudson Valley, and that's what we're trying to achieve, because that's what we're all about. Any questions this morning? Anything you want to know? Good. With that regard, I'd like to thank everybody for coming. It's been a jam-packed meeting this morning, and we have an excellent speaker lined up for next month. He's in here someplace, but I'm not going to point him out quite yet. Thank you all for coming, and have a productive day. Thanks.